All
Hi,
right.
I'm Stuart McCown, and this is my first time being here at Focus Academy. I am so happy to be joined by Stephen, and we're going to see what's up with everybody's projects today.
Thanks, Stuart. And Stuart, you're part of Entrepreneur Society, correct?
Yes, I am.
We've been trying to highlight because Brianna has been part of Entrepreneur Society and everyone's been telling us about it. So thanks for coming on, Stuart.
And thank you guys. This is awesome.
Stephen, we'll let you kick it off.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in today for our next episode of Tech School. Thanks everyone who's able to jump on Zoom and thanks to everyone who's able to tune in, on YouTube, whether you're watching this live or watching this recorded. If you are watching this on YouTube, feel free to give us a like, leave a comment down below. We want this to be kind of a community of learning, with everyone that's able to attend. So if you have thoughts, if you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section on YouTube if you can. But I will hand it on over to Adam to get started.
Hey, thanks, Stephen, and thanks, Fokcus. Great to be here. I was part of a Fokcus founders group in 2019, and it's great to be sort of back. We weren't in a pandemic then, so I don't think we did a single Zoom. It might have been better for me because I was in San Diego and had to transit up to San Marcos, but it was a good drive. I love San Marcos, and believe it or not, now I'm in DC, just keeping the founder's journey going. But I have a few slides. I'll run through them pretty quick because I know I want to get to the meat of the presentation, which is, as we called it, doing an app as a non-technical founder. Kind of is almost an oxymoron, but a little bit about me, a little bit about us, and we're a unique company, if you will, but really a nonprofit 501c3, but really, especially coming out of Fokcus, built it as a startup and a company in terms of having a business model and having something that can scale. So ours, our value proposition, what we do is we crowdfund. We call it crowdfund hope, crowdfund seed capital, so that entrepreneurs like this lady here who sells tomatoes has the capital to do it and expand her business and feed her family. Ultimately, really a little bit of the founder's journey, as they say. Mine started, believe it or not, in 2010. When I was part of the earthquake relief. This is in Haiti, just a tragic earthquake, as you see there, just almost 1.5 million homes or 1.5 million people were displaced, and 250,000 there of lives lost, just absolute tragedy. And so you can see I was obviously serving in the military at the time, and had an opportunity to just deliver hope by providing boxes of food and water, and got to experience just the joy of being around people in that type of situation that needed help. And so after that, just really committed to saying, hey, we're going to go back there. We're going to go build homes. We're going to give out food. We're going to do everything. And so joined the journey, kind of established more as a compassion relief type organization, and using a lot of my skill sets of just coordination and just kind of offering assistance where I could. But really, our first pivot came in the midst of that around 2012, that, even as we were giving all this food, people needed economic activity. And really the biggest realization is that we realized we couldn't solve their problems. And microloans really, especially then, there's a lot of literature out there. You can read it. Mohammed Yunus kind of did it in Bangladesh, and some people on the ground were doing it in Haiti. We're like, let's try it, and especially in some of these countries like Haiti, where some of the regulations and kind of moving, cash around isn't as stringent. We're really able to just kind of move in and using our partners on the ground and saying, here's $2,000, make sure it's just done right. And, as risky as that sounds now, given all credit policy, it allows us to really test the market to see like what would $500, what would $100 do. And like as you can see, this entrepreneur right here bought all these goods, like toiletry items that they could then sell and market. So we just saw that, hey, hypothesis, and then you see that it actually works. And just to kind of capture it for everyone that's not familiar with it, you got obviously these mothers that they do most of these selling just to basically sustain their families, just like all of you here on this Zoom and maybe listening in, our founders probably in the same way. Like I gotta, maybe you have a family, maybe you don't. Sometimes I think in the US, entrepreneurs, we don't have family because it takes so much time to be an entrepreneur, but really there in the developing world, they do it just because that's really the only way to do it, is to get the food to market and then, provide for your family. A long pivot, I probably need the timeline here, but just to catch everyone up. So that was 2010, 2012, we kind of started microloans, dabbled within that for almost 8 years, and just trying to figure out our blend of it, especially being a faith-based organization. We did, church support. We also did some education support. And then, I think our second ground zero moment, if I could put it really pinpoint it, was getting connected with Fokcus. And then just as I was telling the founders before this, really finding that focus. And we just kind of committed almost really exclusively to microloans in 2019. And then just recently we pivoted out of Haiti just because of some of the conditions on ground. And so now we are a micro lending to those in need in Zambia. And really that leads to where we've kind of come full circle in terms of the journey. So, not only have we done a lot of, as you can hear in that whole little snippet, business pivots to, okay, does this work? How are we going to start up in a new place? How are we going to move the capital? Who do we put in charge? What is the credit policy? Is it these types of entrepreneurs versus these? We took all that knowledge. We said, we're going to put in an app. We're going to build a technology solution that then does all that for us. And I'll put here in the chat in a little bit the link for you to download. But if you're on your phones right now, you can go to the Apple Store. On Apple, it's Spark Hope. On Google Play, it's just Spark. And you can see some of the snippets there, that basically a marketplace for entrepreneurs, like Esme here, that's a Zambian. She's 24 years doing food business and shoe business. She's got sandals. She sells cakes and she wants to improve her business by getting an expanded inventory of those items. And, it allows donors to come in and really see those folks and potentially give. So how do we do that? And real quick, just so you can see the whole bigger picture, but we try to make it a Venmo experience. That's what we tell people, but there's a little bit of behind the scenes. People donate on the actual platform, then we sort of, issue the funds over to our partner, Spark Zambia. They have a local bank, and then they issue the capital actually via a mobile banking system. So just kind of like a Venmo in Africa, where it's text to give, and they're giving the money direct to the beneficiaries that are part of on our platform. So this is a little bit of our sort of app journey, as we call it. Anyone that's been through kind of this is called, an XD. I don't know if this is too simple for everyone, but what we had to do was just really, step one, define the user journey, in a sense of, hey, what do you do when you select your name, or when you hit I'm ready to launch, or do you just want to go set up a user profile immediately, or do you need to learn a little bit about the app? How do we want our user profile thing to look, the login? What information do we need? Then they go to a second screen or third screen? So all that was just part of this build. And looking back on it now, I'm like, why did we do that like that? Oh my God. But that's part of also, as I'll tell it a little bit, just the dev process of always trying to understand where you're going and being ready to adapt and continue the dev process. The dev process is almost the enduring journey, because you're never going to know what works and what doesn't until you beta, until you get people to be like, I didn't know you're supposed to click that button. That just didn't make sense. And that's why I said, really define your touch points. Is it like, hey, at this point, we really want them to click, like, okay, they're on the platform. We really want them to scroll up, scroll down. Maybe they want to look at, maybe we need to do a little brand positioning right up front, so they know this isn't some con thing. And then there's a lot to unpack in terms of how the info is stored. Like, we ask a lot of data on there about their, their background. We get their phone numbers. We do a little bit of account verification. But then, one of the things that we missed in the process was, okay, how do we recall that info? Is it readily available? Well, no, it's on a server somewhere. You've got to go find it. But if you don't have a recall system already built, then it's kind of like a needle in the haystack. And of course, we didn't know that. But this is a little bit of the back end. It's a little bit of cutoff just with the PowerPoint. But you can see here what we basically did was we set up a system where, you can request a loan, and then on the back end, you have a way to view who's on there, their data. Hey, that person checks out, approve. And the reason why I show this too is that, that's kind of my own teaching point, is that every good app needs a good back end. You need a way to basically see inside of this thing and have some, super admin rights, and really just know who's using it and what kind of information that they're presenting to you. As an aside, we've also had to do a lot of training for these entrepreneurs, because they were like, I can't get on this app. I don't know what to do. But I think that the success story is that now they figured it out. You can see, they're starting to realize like what type of pictures to take. And it's really a neat process of them applying and getting, the crowdfunding going. So a little bit of what I learned, and then, I'll just kind of open it up to questions, is never give up, even when it's like, it seems like the going is getting rough, as they say. Build the team, because you always need, people that have the skill sets that maybe you don't. And you can see, obviously, that we can use some more technical folks. I think a lot of times I've just said, I'll figure it out. But I think if you build vision, people want to come alongside. They're like, just tell me where to go. That's why focus is key. I think if you know where you're going, if you're like, this is where we're going, here's a 6-month strategy, here's a year strategy, people will indeed follow. So that's the, my presentation. I hope that, like I said, I can unpack any portion of that, from if you want to geek out on kind of the actual build and what that took, or hey, where'd you guys see your first pivot? Definitely can give you all more. I think for us, where we're at now, are we like on our way to being, Fortune 500, probably, probably not. I mean, we're still obviously a nonprofit, but I think what I tell people is we're trying to get on a path of sustainability. Basically, where you've got the team in place and then you're not doing all the work, and that you've got revenue streams coming in so that you can pay that guy to do, or gal to do the accounting. You can pay that person to do social media. And then as that process of just having enough ramp to build all that in, you're just going to see growth just in general anyways, because of the team that's around you working and kind of plugging in. So I think that's where we're at now, 2021, again, 2 years after Fokcus. And I really feel confident that we set our goals this year for 500 microloans, which is about 100,000. So I think we can get there. In all transparency, the app has a little bit of bugs. We have some things where Google verification is a little bit not. We got to figure out how we can get past some of that. If you're trying to give right now, and you got to log in with that G versus put in your username and password, stuff like that. But we've got to really go. As I said, the development process never ends, and you got to go into sort of dev mode. But Stephen, I'll turn back over to you. It looks like some questions are coming in. How do you want to, let me ask over to you on which one I should tackle first?
Sure. Yeah, we can, Curling, do you want to just read some of the questions and we can go through them that way?
Yeah, all right. Trippy, what you want? You can unmute yourself for Trippy. She did a good one, and Joanna, if you want to unmute yourself after Trippy's question, that's totally fine. We can do it that way, Stephen.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you, Adam, and such a great idea. And that, like, the heart and authenticity is so obvious in what you're building. So thank you for that. And I do want to actually take you up on your offer of geeking out on some of these like details, right? So the first is, given that it is a group of founders that don't necessarily have a lot of technical experience, what are your thoughts on some no-code applications, specifically with what you spoke about of the back end being really tight, or some of the encryption issues or some of the security issues that you speak about? Like, have you tried any of them? Do you love any of them? And how did you build yours?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because I don't even know what no-code solutions are, but okay. I'll give my best answer though. I think what I would offer everyone though, what I meant by the back end is two things. Number one, like literally take a notepad out and sketch. Everyone can do that here. And just no kidding, be like, what's screen one say? And the thing is, it's kind of like, how do we learn how to do social media? We went on social media and you're like, okay, I hit that one, I post. And that's that functionality. So go on, you learn these things, you learn how to almost understand apps by exploring the app environment. So go on as many apps as you can and just test them. Be like, how's their login feature? Okay, so they have a black screen and then it goes to here and then it's asking me for all these choices. Okay, so now I know to do that. And oh, by the way, then it's by the third screen and they ask for the shopping cart. So map all that out and be like, I like that, I don't like that. Well, my shopping cart needs to be earlier because I don't have as big a selection. And then kind of map all that out. And then what I mean kind of by the back end is really just think about what user data you need. And I know that's hard to imagine right now, but be like, well, think about your own business dev of like, okay, well, one of the challenges, pain points I might be having is, even if you have, let's take, for example, CRM management 101, right? You're like, I usually have someone in my CRM, but I don't know their phone number or something like that, right? You're like, it would be great if I had their phone number, their birthday, so I can send them a card on their birthday, or like even stuff like that. You're like, what would I just need at my fingertips to be able to reach out and get them to a next sale? Or be like, hey, I saw that you logged in, but you didn't buy anything, So some of the back end is more like business dev stuff, but it's also like, you got to think, and this is geeking out for everyone here, but one, you have to define, it's almost like what type of business model you are. Like ours is kind of like a marketplace app, so that creates some complexity in like the back end being kind of an approval process. But you might be like, well, for instance, our platform or our business is we source all, like, I think you use some type of clothes or something like that. Like, hey, we source the clothes, so maybe you don't need as much functionality there. And it's more like you more need like a CMS thing where it's like, okay, if I change seasons, then I can upload this. So a lot of it just comes down to what you want to do for your business, and keep sketching. And then for me, we outsourced it. Somehow we came up with like $2,000. It seems like a lot, but it's not. I mean, it is kind of a lot for us because we're like this baby nonprofit without any money. But if you can outsource it, now that you have your sketches, do it. I haven't tried any of those things that are no code, so I don't know, but that would be my suggestion, because you do need kind of a team. It's kind of like building a website too, so hopefully that helps. And I would say one other thing that I would advise everyone is like, think about outsourcing too, is you can find people, freelancers that do XD design. So you can be like, here's my sketches. Can you at least build the wireframes? And that'll allow you to look, feel, and you can then either pitch it and get investments, because they're like, man, this wireframe looks awesome. I can see the vision. Or you can maybe outsource a little bit and get an MVP. And I'll throw one more kind of founder's nugget of wisdom in there, like about the MVPs. Hopefully you guys have probably studied that a little bit of like, sometimes it's just good to get a starting place, so even if it's not perfect, at least now you can get the beta testing and go from there.
And I know, Trip, you said the no code piece. When we had our first couple cohorts, we actually explained some no code aspects that they could use. Like what we did, we use Airtable, and we use all these other things to actually help groups. And I feel, Adam, you're using Airtable for some parts of your workflow, right?
Yeah, I think, what you'll see too, this is another kind of epiphany, is that, I was telling Curling, like, we use Airtable now for like matching coaches, like a mentorship component, which obviously wasn't built in initially. We're just like, spend money and you give money and you get money, or, but, now even as we're expanding our business dev, like the app could have more functionality to be like, schedule a time with an entrepreneur. So all that comes into play. I think to the no code solution in that regard, everything can be no code. Let's say that. And you just have to make some decision points about, what am I gaining by doing this as an app, or can it be on a website? Can it be a mobile solution? And at what point do we just go into dev mode to build it all and make it work? I mean, if you guys could see the amount of duct tape that we use on this thing, it'd be pretty funny, because obviously, as you saw that last slide of like how the funds actually get to the people, we have another platform for just tracking that stuff. And, we have another platform. We use Airtable just for initial onboarding to be like, it's an intake survey thing. And, so if it could all mesh into one, I think I'd be a happy person, but we probably need a lot more dev to get there.
Did that help out Tripty a little bit on it?
Very helpful. I think if the flow that we're talking about, I'm sorry, by the way, if there's background noise, that, the reason I think of no code is I wonder if there were other ways that maybe that that this might be like facilitated with things that already exist. So for example, instead of giving loans of actual dollars to people, if you gave gift cards, right? So that you can give up to 500 and not pay taxes, and those systems already exist. So if you like were able to plug that in instead, would you need to have an actual build? Or or for example, if you were opening up bank accounts and you got incentives from the bank that each time you open up an account, you get $100 or $200, and you're able to pass that on to the person. I was just trying to think about what exists now that might make it a little bit easier to not have to worry about every single security, every single password, every single stuff, and how much of that you can sort of push on to others. But as a general sentiment, I'm yes, very grateful, and thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, let me just jump on that though, because I think now I understand the question better. Sorry. I think as founders, you all have to make that calculus of, will this improve my business and lead to more growth or not? And that was our calculus. As you saw, we've been on a long journey for almost 10 years, and we were working off of Google Sheets, and when people want to give, they would give, and we wire the money. But what we tried to do, why we did the dev, is we wanted to create a user experience. We wanted to bring people in, capture their info, and make them feel like they had made a one-to-one connection with an entrepreneur. And in fact, one of the pieces that we built in was that the entrepreneurs can update there and they can send messages back and forth, which we're still making sure getting through the beta there. But, if that's your end goal, so again, you got to think, what's your end goal? If you're like, I really want my customers to do X, Y, Z, and I think technology is going to get there, and put in the legwork and go for
it. That's great, Adam. And I know, John, Pantages, you had a couple of questions. You want to just unmute yourself? They're a really good question too.
Well, mostly I was just wondering like what you outsource specifically.
Yeah, we actually did the entire build, believe it or not, outsource. So, when I say I'm non-technical, definitely. And I think now that we're trying to do a dev 2.0, now we are going back and being like, hey, by the way, can you give us that code back? It's kind of actually funny. So, I think that's the lessons learned. If you outsource, it truly means that. And you can't just turn to and say, hey, that thing was kind of messed up. You're like, not my fault.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the team thing too, of like, hey, we're going to get in this together. And if it goes right, and then let's just dig in and figure out how to get it back on track. And I think if you find the people that are dedicated to it, they'll get there with you. And I think for us right now, again, with that duct tape, we're just like, at least like, let's kind of float and coast in MVP mode for a little bit. And I think we're about to do, like I said, the next round to do it differently again. We build it more organically.
I was asking mostly because like for example, how do you troubleshoot then? Do you have to rely entirely on them? Like when you troubleshoot if somebody hacks or a security thing happens, or
right now we have to rely on the folks that we outsourced it to, but that's part of the transition handoff that we're doing right now. Is like, now that we realize like, okay, we're going to have to own it a little bit better. Like that's part of, again, being the non-technical founder, like bringing on some consultants just to be like, show me the architecture, and like, okay, well, is this safe? Okay, well, what do we have to do? Let's continue to whiteboard it. All that plays into it. It definitely all does. And yeah, I think if that's my other teaching tip, like obviously it is dangerous if in the grand scheme. I mean, we obviously built it with, Stripe integration and stuff like that. So a lot of the credit card data is whole, with entities that are sophisticated. It's not like we're just like holding it in some random Google Drive. you know, you bring up a good point that you do need to have your hands on it and make sure that you know all the different components.
And John, I know you have like some technical expertise too. Any feedback on any of that? Have you ever outsourcing, Jonna? Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if you were talking to other Joanna or not.
No, Jonna Contagious. Jonna P. Have you ever outsourced? I was just curious.
Oh yeah, I started, I think the first time I outsourced was like 13 years ago or 12 years ago,
Yeah.
or something, when it was still really odd or somewhat odd. But yeah, those were, I've seen a lot of issues too. So it's not that it's technically, it can work. It can work for MVP and it can work. But yeah, man, if you have issues, like it can go south really fast too. But I think it's like anything in life. You just figure out what risks to take. And
Yeah. Come join our team too, if you want.
Yeah. John is pretty solid though, as in like just having technical abilities. Me and Steven and even John H, like we always think there's a lot of risk to technical things. Adam, you know me, always talking about, I'm always saying, hey, can you get at least one person in-house, right? Just one, right? To be that person that could be that sounding board, or even if you're doing outsourced, at least you trust that one person. So that we always said that at least having one technical person, and then even you're outsourcing, you have someone that you really trust. And like you said, Adam, like, where's the source code? That person in-house will know where the source code is. No, you have that part. So that's always our tip at Fokcus. Even if you're outsourcing, have like at least one technical person there that's that has your back in that way. And I think that's what you're transitioning to, right, Adam?
Yeah, we have some folks, you know, thankfully as a nonprofit, we got some people working kind of pro bono to provide that advisement. And yeah, I think you know, we're gonna try to build a kind of a dev team, maybe of some college students. So I think that's the fun part. Sometimes it's just the recruiting the team and trying to build a very, you know, focused vision within kind of the greater vision, you know.
No, that's good. I know, Steven, you always ask that one question before we wrap up. You want to ask that one question to Adam?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so there's a question that we've asked a lot of the founders that have came on before. So I'll pose that to you, Adam. I know we talked about this, you know what it is, but imagine you had a chance to talk to your younger version of yourself, right? So before you had went on this founder journey, you know, you told us about that whole journey, 10, 12 years that you've gone on. So imagine you had to talk to yourself, you know, 12, 13 years ago. What sort of advice would you have for your younger self, you know, before starting, you know, this journey in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, you know, I think I kind of put it there at the end of Fokcus. You know, I think you know, when I started this, we all have big dreams. Let's just put it that way, right? You know, when I started it, I thought we were going to be the biggest compassion organization in the world, you know, of giving food in Peru and you name the country, right? And I think, you know, especially as you see where we're at now, we're like, hey, we got to pause. You know, we can't work in Peru, we can't work in Philippines. We've been a lot of places, and we said we're just going to work in Zambia. We're going to get the model down, and we're going to do this number of loans and keep it very tight. And I think that's gotten us a far way. And I think the team piece too, I can't speak to that enough. You know, I think early on, I just really found people that I thought at the time had a heart for the mission, right? But they weren't good teammates because they didn't have any skills though, in a way that we needed for the organization. You know, they were good people. that care. And so I think that's the other thing I would say is like really look at what are you missing? Okay, well, we need someone with finance. And then on top of that, be willing to just knock on a lot of doors to get the team. You know, like part of what I did wrong at the beginning was like I went to the people I knew, which is good. You need to start with your friends, right? Be like, hey, come on. Otherwise, you can't really launch. But I didn't pivot quickly enough to be like, where's the curlings out there? You know, where's the people that have entrepreneurial skills, or maybe that have, you know, in our field, deep philanthropy skills? You know, I just freeze.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, that's really where I think for all of you on this call and in the Zoom, think about what's your core business, right? And based on that core business, who are the people that you can either bring in as mentors, or maybe join your team, maybe even just like a very, you know, consultant capacity, like, hey, can you give me 2 hours a week? I just need someone to look up this thing, or I need someone just to make sure my CRM is tight. Can you be that person? And you'll find that when you sketch it like that, that's something bite-sized, people are more willing to join, instead of like, all right, we're gonna just kind of take over the world, and we have this country. Are you ready? You know, that was my pitch before. Try to just cast a big enough vision, but I think people like a smaller vision and exactly where they fit in. Like, hey, you have the technology skills, and we really need that. Or, hey, you have the skills to partner with people, and that's where you're fit in, and let's grow together. So here we are. Hopefully we continue growth.
No, that's great, Adam. And I always say this too, thanks for your service though too, right? So we had Ty on, we've been having like Matt and all the different groups, but thanks for your just initial service and your kind of like love for service even afterwards. So we definitely appreciate that. And that's why we kind of wanted you to come on and talk to the group. But yeah, definitely appreciate that. We actually have Lois on here. She's actually an entrepreneur locally. And Lois, you want to unmute yourself? You can unmute, say hi.
Hi, hello everyone. Yeah, it's great to be here today once again with the Fokcus family and team. I do have a student of mine who's working on her doctorate in business, and her topic is microfinance recruiting. And I actually had a meeting with her just before starting this session. And in particular, she's interested in looking at models for recruiting members of underserved groups. Her focus right now is the United States, but you know, sort of looking at your app and looking at the interface of technology between certain groups that may not have a whole lot of access to it. I would just love for her to speak with you, and while she's putting together her model, and sort of perhaps use some of what you've discovered as some case material for her research. So
that sounds great,
Lois.
Yeah, that's great. And we also, I think, Lois, you've been helping the community so much. So thank you always putting your hand up like, yes, I can help. So thanks, Lois, for always having that heart.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. I'll connect you to Adam. And Adam, what you can actually do is maybe I'll send you the emails for both of you guys after the meeting.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
So thank you, Lois. Thanks, Adam. And Stephen, what we'll do is we'll do a wrap up, and we'll have a little extra time to do maybe like this kind of 10-minute networking session. I know we're going to connect Adam and Brianna together for their post-city highlights. So I'll let you wrap it up, Stephen.
Awesome. Yeah, for everyone tuning in, we do a speed networking session. We kind of took this idea from Startup San Diego. They did this at a few of their events, that were virtual, during the pandemic and everything. But we just randomly match you up with somebody else, you have a chance for 5 or 10 minutes to kind of network with somebody else who was able to join via Zoom today. So if you want to be a part of that, feel free to stay on and we'll match you up. But if not, you're welcome to jump off and we will end the recording. But just to wrap things up for everyone tuning in, whether it's Zoom or on YouTube or whatever, thanks for joining. Thanks, Adam, for speaking, sharing some awesome nuggets of wisdom, some great stories, and your founder's story, right? I think there's a lot that all of us can learn from today, and especially all your great answers to the questions that were asked. So thank you.
Yeah, it was great to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, but as always, thanks for tuning in. If you have a chance, if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to give us a like, leave a comment down below. We want this to continue to be kind of this community of learning and growth for everyone that's able to attend. So, leave a comment, ask a question, whatever that may be. But as always, we will see you in the next Tech School.